If you've got mold, you've got excess vapor. It could be a localized problem or it could be a general problem. But wherever there's mold, you have a risk of condensation. And in this property, a surveyor went round, said that it was a damp problem and recommended a damp proofing company check it for rising damp. Fortunately, the owner came to us and we performed this after the purchase. This is what the damp surveyor would have used, and it's dry. So this is just doing the surface there. I'm going to use this. There you go, let's try that. Is it damp? So I recommend any owner buy themselves one of these very inexpensive damp meters. They're not calibrated, but they're perfect for working out whether the wall's damp and whether it's drying out. It's reasonably dry. This property is basically dry. It is summertime. So it's more or less here, and what you can get is zones of heat loss. So this is drawing the heat out in winter. I think you just get rid of it, you don't need it.
This thing? That one?
Yeah. This is where the dampest part is here. And it's just because of heat loss. But it's always useful to have one of these, but just be aware that they're going to cause heat loss.
Oh really? Okay.
And this wrought iron looks fairly dilapidated. I would if you feel behind it, it's unpainted. If you can reach up there.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's because people can't paint it, and so it gets rust behind it.
Yeah.
And that's where they tend to go. I mean, it's not too bad. I think you'll find there's slight green there, and that could be a shade, or it could be some water running down the outside, but it doesn't look too bad. So I wouldn't worry about it, but just be aware that in some time the wrought iron probably needs replacing. It's been replaced with the top section anyway.
Okay, yeah.
And that's chimney breast there. With these external kitchen vents, they are untargeted. So the food is being cooked here.
Yeah.
We've got one of these fans, but it's not made to, but it's not taking air out. It's just going above and being blown. So it's just recycling it. So this is all the vapor is supposed to go out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not working at the moment, and this is probably your primary cause.
Okay.
But even so, it's not as good as targeted ventilation. So ideally, you put a duct which you can put in under the ceiling above.
Sure.
But think about that. The more targeted, the better. If you've got a fan there and you've got a door open, a lot of the vapor is just going to travel in this direction and not out there.
But when it creates a problem upstairs or in the other rooms?
Well, it will do through diffusion. It's a bit like if somebody was smoking in the kitchen, you soon smell the smoke elsewhere in the house. So it just moves through diffusion vapor. You can't see it, but it's moving through. And the other thing is that these are quite noisy, these fans, and you'll find that people don't use them very often because you can't probably. Well, there's a problem with kitchen ventilation anyway. Is it can be a bit noisy, but it should be used all the time, or as much as possible cook with tops on pots and pans, so you can reduce the vapor production by about 80% and keep the door closed as much as possible. The alternative is use dehumidifiers, but I'll explain that later on. Try that. So this is in the kitchen. I'll put it on the right one. So you get heat loss around the chimney breast because chimneys are basically a void that's opened up with a single skin of brick inside as opposed to two skins of bricks.
Okay.
And so you get a lot of heat loss around there, so you get increased risk of condensation. And because it's in the kitchen, you're getting the condensation from the kitchen. So there's mold around the property, and that tells me that there's a major ventilation issue in this property. The other thing to be aware of is they've extended to the back, and the subfloor ventilation opens into the back. This can create a perfect environment for vapor to get in through from the kitchen and condense in the subfloor void. It's better to monitor subfloor humidity and close it off. And if necessary, you're going to have to blow it out, create an airflow within the subfloor. But I think it's highly unlikely because it seems very dry. It looks pretty good. You can see the damp-proof course here as well.
Oh, there is one. Okay.
Yeah. So you've got a lino floor on top of concrete or a cement, and then on top of tile, and then I suspect from looking at it that it's then on top of a timber floor. I don't feel there's nothing to suggest that there is damage to the timber below it. I think it's just natural disruption because you've basically got a concrete floor on top of a timber floor.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
there's a slight give, and you can hear a slight concrete sound, hollow sound from the timber below, but there's no sense of sag in the floor.
Okay.
It feels rigid but disrupted, if that makes sense,
yeah.
rather than saggy from the rot. It would take quite a lot of time to investigate it, and it'd be very disruptive. And I don't think you'll gain any information that you won't find out when you come to replace the floor, which I'm guessing you will do anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
No bathroom extractor fan. Modern living needs a bathroom extractor fan. Also be aware that that could be asbestos. There's obviously water has flowed out through the curtain and over this. So it's mainly dry in the bedrooms. However, behind the cupboard, there's some dampness. What happens is the cupboard stops the heat from moving through, and humidity can get trapped against the wall. Carpet mites around the edge there, or possibly carpet moth, but the mites grow where you get lots of heat loss, and they're similar to dust mites. There's no one named heat loss. So the primary cause is the vapor. Heat loss exacerbates the excess vapor. So a byproduct of gas is water, so you will produce some water, but there should be a flue up through the chimney breast, so ideally that's all taken away, but yeah, that's just something to know about. Overall, it's a reasonably dry property, one that all you need to do is put the ventilation in the kitchen, bathroom. In the kitchen it should be targeted ventilation ideally, and it should be used. You want to have in the bathroom, it should go straight out, at least 15 litres a second with an overrun of 30 minutes, with an undercut under the floor, under the door of 8 to 10 mil, about that amount. You have to consider fire safety as well. And whenever drying clothes internally, use a dehumidifier. Ideally, use a vented dryer or a condenser dryer or heat pump, but be aware that sometimes they release humidity. And really important is monitor the internal vapor following Dew's law, where you're keeping the internal dew point below the external temperature. Use the data loggers for that, and use the online site damp.ai/detect for monitoring the data loggers. And you'll have a lovely dry house.